are pleased to announce that Daryl Albrandt has been selected this year as our Legacy Lessee Award winner. The Legacy Award was established for lessees who want to turn over their lease to a younger generation that is a non-family member. We want to encourage the next generation of agriculture producers in our state. Mr. Albrandt has held this lease for 7 years with his uncle. It has been in their family for many years. His uncle has had this for 50 plus years. Their agricultural lease consisted of 2 parts. The top part of the lease was an irrigated portion of the lease that they brought their own irrigation water to the property to irrigate with. And the south part of the lease was grazing with a home site that was adjacent to the road. Due to the circumstances in their family, they saw the opportunity that it would be best to look at an assignment of their parcel to someone that was much younger.
The process is that the lessee would contact the district office. We would help them coordinate filling out the paperwork to give us the information about the new lessees. Then we would evaluate the new lessees to determine if they would be good stewards and good lessees.
We are very pleased that Mr. Albrandt assigned his lease to the next generation. They have been a very, very good lessees on the property so far.
Mr. Albrandt actually has been a junior high and high school teacher in Merino for many, many years. And he also is a track coach, and he's very concerned about the kids, making sure that they get the education and the worldly experience that they need to go out into the world. So it doesn't surprise me one bit that he would assign his lease to a new young operator in our community.
Stowe Whitwer and the SLW Ranch is a very worthy winner of the Bloom Stewardship Award. Stewardship matters to the Land Board not only because it's a constitutional mandate, but because we must steward the land we hold in trust for school kids so they can earn money for not only this generation of children, but the future generations to come. We created the Bloom Stewardship Award 4 years ago to honor those lessees who go above and beyond to take care of the land that they lease from us. My first impression of Mr. Whitwer was of a lovely gentleman who not only is a professional, but loves what he and his family have done on a ranch for multiple years. He's part of a generation that I always enjoy talking to because they have such an amount of history and knowledge of the past, and they fold that into what they're doing today. And in cases like this, they add new management to what they have learned in the past on a continual basis. And it's really fun to talk to people like that and to hear about what their vision for the future of their ranch is and their next generations. SLW Ranch is one of Colorado's oldest family-owned, continuously operating ranches. It's got a rich history of father and son who are running the ranch at this point that love the enterprise and love the asset they've managed for a lifetime. The first time I drove onto the SLW Ranch, I knew immediately that the management capabilities of the family that ran this ranch were exceptional. I was looking at sugar sand country out in Weld County that was very friable and very fragile, and had an amazing grass base of cool and warm season grasses. And it was obvious to me that they had been managed at a high level for years.
My father, I'm Stowe Jr., my father, Stowe Whitwer, was born on the ranch in 1902, and he died on the ranch in 1991. His brother, Harvey Whitwer, joined him in 1930, came back from California where he was selling life insurance, and they operated Whitwer Brothers Herefords until 1960. They had the oldest continuous operating Hereford operations, counting my grandfather's time in Colorado. The ranch that we now call the SLW Ranch was land owned by J.M. Studebaker. And he was part of the Studebaker Manufacturing Company at that time, and they later made automobiles. For about 12 years and had operated it as a large horse operation. It was called the Percheron Norman Horse Company, and they had 2,500 brood mares, which, if you know anything about horses, is just an amazingly large operation to have 2,500 mares that would foal every year. Anyway, in 1899, something before that, they ended up with some property in Weld County, and they were going to operate a ranch, and they brought my grandfather, Harvey Whitmer, in to manage the ranch and to sell off portions of the ranch. In about 1913, my grandfather bought out his uncle J.M. Studebaker and another partner. So he was the sole owner of the ranch, but he had to pay for it, and he owed money to the Federal Land Bank that he'd borrowed in order to pay them off. Short version is he lost the ranch in 1931 or 1932 to the Federal Land Bank during the Great Depression. And my father and my uncle borrowed on the cash value of their life insurance and were able to borrow enough to buy back about 3,500 acres. Now, we have bought a little since that time. Since about 1988, I bought several farms and some additional property. I was a typical ranch kid. I didn't know until I was close to 30 years old that I'd worked very hard growing up. People used to talk about, did you work hard? And I didn't really know what that meant, because if you grow up on a ranch, you just do what you have to do, but you do work hard. I had all kinds of accidents growing up. I was not very good with equipment. I was okay with horses, much better with cattle. You learn with livestock and animals a lot of things about life that you need to learn. They may be painful learning. I think I was 9, and we had a cow that had been down for a week. She was sick. I don't remember what was wrong with her. But we were working cattle in the corrals, and my uncle said he drove by and saw that cow was still down, so we were going to have to put her out of her misery. So, Stowe, you take the gun over and you take care of the cow. As a result of my shot, the cow got up and ran over the hill. She hadn't been up for a week. Well, I was 9 years old. I got terrified and went back over to the corrals and got my uncle to take me over in the pickup. And I'd say that cow got up, but well, by the time I got back over there, she's passed on. But I never forgot that. We now operate a purebred Hereford operation, but not registered. And it would be called a small commercial operation. Part of our legacy from my father and my grandfather, and that is, you've got to treat your cattle well if you want them to treat you well. And we believe that very much. And so part of that is to make sure that they're well taken care of, not just living. We want our cattle to be thriving, and they will do much better for us. I will tell you what we've tried to do over the years, and that is, the big thing is to not overgraze. There's not magic to that. It's sometimes you have to make judgments about whether you, and if you're short of grass and you're not getting any rain, you have to get cattle out of there. I would say we've done a fairly good job with that. And that the pasture, our pasture, we're proud of, and we include in that section 6 and 8. We have planted grass mixtures on our own, and especially along roads, and that's helped us a lot. We've also done something else that's, I've been told, is crazy and you shouldn't do it. But sometimes when you have lots of rain for 1 or 2 or 3 years, you get a lot of heavy growth of unwanted weeds, and sometimes those weeds will grow 5 or 6 feet tall. And we've actually taken our heavy duty bush hog and knocked those big weeds down. The goal being to let the sun reach the ground and the lower grass growing. And we found that to be a very helpful, invigorating act for the lower grasses. We feel that through that and some other things we've done, that this is not just on the section 6 and 8, but we've restored about 900 acres of our pasture. Section 6 is as fine a grass growing section as you can find in that area. And considering as part of our ranch, and I know that's a little bit overstepping, we don't mean to, by saying that we have any more proprietary claim than anybody else, but we operate it as, for our cattle purposes, as part of our ranch. And it's an excellent section of land for cattle. Thank you for this lovely award, and it's incredible. It's very creative, and I am proud to accept that on behalf of my family, the SLW Ranch Company, and it makes me emotional just looking at it. It will fit well at our ranch. Thank you.
The State Land Board partners with more than 3,400 lessees on state trust land. And each year, we recognize our very best lessees with one of 3 awards. The Lessee of the Year award is granted to the lessee that has demonstrated superior stewardship practices, worked cooperatively with the agency staff, and helped generate revenue for the agency's beneficiaries. The 50,000-acre Chancellor Ranch is in southeast Colorado, about 1 hour east of Trinidad. The ranch is named for the previous owner of the property, Mr. Jim Chancellor, who sold the property to the State Land Board and then leased it back and continued to carefully manage it for many years. In 2016, the State Land Board solicited lease proposals from interested operators, and Chiquak Cattle Company was selected from more than 50 highly qualified bidders. They manage this ranch to the same high standards that they apply on their own land, and have carefully directed the investment of more than $1 million of State Land Board and Chiquak Cattle Company funds to improve the overall operation and value of the ranch. I'd like to offer what I think is a really clear example of their commitment to doing things right, whether or not they own the land or lease the land from the State Land Board. The State Land Board and Colorado Parks and Wildlife have partnered on 2 really innovative programs on the Chancellor Ranch. Both programs, one, the use of Hydrax to improve more than 1,000 acres of wildlife habitat, and the second, a bighorn sheep hunting program that allows public access to the property were successful because Steve and Pat invested their own time and their own resources to make sure that they were successful. Since obtaining the lease, the Wooten and Carney families have been exemplary stewards and lessees of one of the State Land Board's premier ranch assets.
I'm Steve Wooten, and I'm a member of the Chacuac Cattle Company, and we're located in north central Los Animas County, about 25 miles north of the small community of Branson in southeast Colorado. It has really remarkably come back in ground cover than what we saw during the visits prior to the request for proposal. Even though the last couple of years have been semi-drouthy and this year was a significant drought, it showed its resilience with a little bit of care and some careful distribution of cattle and placing of cattle on the ranch, that it's coming back quicker than we even imagined that it would. Its history was very minimal amount of pipeline and water distribution from the wells, and mostly reliant on surface water from rainfall in catch ponds spread out through the ranch. And in the last 20 plus years, it's been rarer to have enough surface water on the ranch to utilize it in its entire capacity. And so initially the State Land Board put up some money to get some of the very first work done, testing the wells, evaluating the wells, the quality of the water in the wells, and then the first part of the pipelining and solar unit application for the wells.
We started out with, we're almost double the capacity what the ranch could carry in 16. We started out with 350 cows, and right now I think we're close to 600 pairs on the ranch. So, and without all these improvements, we wouldn't have been there.
Right now, we've also begun some of the brush management on the ranch. It has a lot of pastures that are 60 to 70% covered with pinyon juniper, and we've done some side work in comparison to the Hydra Axe work that was done by Colorado Parks and Wildlife and State Land Board. And in an attempt to find an analysis of the outcomes of the two, we cleared some acreage this year of pinyon juniper with a dozer, and we can compare cost and result of the two now and determine which one is most feasible for moving forward and continuing that type of work. Of course, the other major component for the State Land Board was, for a lease this size and with the expectation of being on the ranch full time, there was no adequate housing on the ranch. And so the State Land Board asked us to go out and design and bid out to carpenters 2 houses to be built on the property. And through the first couple of years, they were under construction. They are now finished and being used and inhabited, making it much easier to be over on the ranch and getting the work done. I'm
an accountant by trade, so then I'm going to add figures to what Steve said. So we've put in 20 miles of pipeline, 15 new tanks, 15 redone tanks, and 6.5 miles of fence in the last 5 years. So we think that's significant amount of infrastructure that we've added. And like Steve said, that it's just made the ranch a different ranch with the input.
So a little bit on the other side of our lease, we also bid the recreational lease. And we did in the first year bring some clients on, and we came to a realization that we were probably going to have to rest the Chancellor from very extensive hunting. There were lots of young animals, not a lot of mature animals, but side-by-side comparison to inventories of other ranches that we are involved in our hunting operation with, we felt like there was a chance for quite a few more animals to grow if we would rest it. So we didn't do a lot of client hunting. We switched over and worked with Colorado Parks and Wildlife Hunter Outreach Program. And we've hosted youth hunts on Chancellor for antelope and deer. We this year came back and brought 2 clients on and had a successful hunt with those 2 clients for mule deer and 3 clients for antelope. And we have yet to bring our clients for elk on. We will be hosting the bighorn sheep hunter that drew the tag for Chancellor this year. And this is something that we've planned to do, and we work with Greg and Abe on this to provide our services and our house to the hunter so that they have facilities there. They have the full kitchen, bedroom, suite that's in our home. We provide guide service, all pro bono as a means of our endorsement and our promotion of the State Land Board and its participation in the Bighorn Sheep Access Program in Southeast Colorado.
We envision a long-term relationship with the State Land Board and to keep improving the ranch in all the ways possible. And I just envision, you know, our grandkids growing up on the ranch, our families.
I just want, on behalf of Shequat Cattle Company, thank the State Land Board for the confidence they have in us to invest the money into the infrastructure and trust us with those monies to improve the ranch, and just their trust in us in general to have a long-term lease with our families and to carry on with us in all fashions of the business.